Hello, my name is Oli McVeigh, and I'm here for the next 10 or so minutes just to talk to you a little bit about the work that we're doing at Ferndown Upper School, which is a school on the south coast of England, located in Dorset, where we have worked hard to establish a programme that supports boys within education. I'm sure we're all really aware of the statistics that are going around regarding boys in education, but also within broader society. We know that there is a widening literacy gap between boys and girls, and we know that there needs to be something to be done to support boys with navigating a really tricky world of masculinity. They're receiving really unhelpful messages from external sources. That's meaning that it's a really complicated transitional phase for many of our boys. And we've gone about establishing a program that is going to try and combat and support and guide them a little bit more with this. Now, we are situated in an area where mental health is a massive, massive problem. The suicide rate for men in the South Coast in particular is absolutely abhorrent and significantly above national average. And we really try to ensure that masculinity and mental health are kind of explored as topics within our school community, but we've also provided our boys with academic support and mentoring that can also engage them within their learning. Now, this is us. This is myself, Oli McVeigh, and Deneen Kenchington, who we've co-authored the boys program here at Ferndown Upper School together, and that took place around about 3 years ago. And we've started to kind of go on a bit of a journey where we're starting to progress through into our 4th year now, where we are elevating the program, and I'm really proud and pleased to say that we are offering our best program ever. Now, this program that we have constructed is based upon 10 principles called the Taking Boys Seriously principles. Now, these are based upon the University of Ulster, and they did a longitudinal study exploring the way in which boys, specifically within Northern Ireland, had kind of engaged or disengaged within the education system. And they came up with 10 principles where, when you apply them to your context, you can establish support that helps these boys to make better progress within the education system. Now, what this has helped us to do is it's helped us to be able to really make significant changes within our school community. We have defied national averages in terms of the way in which boys are engaging in specific subjects like English. As an English teacher myself, it's really disheartening to hear the amount of English courses that are being cut, and the lack of uptake from students in English courses. We are fighting against that with over 70 A-level English students, and half of those are boys, which is really positive. Boys are making significant progress academically. We have a positive progress 8 score. We are proud to say we've closed that gender gap in English. Boys are attending our school more than any other cohort, and the negative sanctions for boys have been decreased because they are able to spend longer in the lessons learning. Now, part of this comes from our core beliefs, and this is something that we go around to a lot of different schools and we'll talk about, and we're very happy to talk to you more in depth about. 10 minutes is not enough for me to really kind of get my teeth into that, but we fundamentally believe that it's our attitude as a teacher that makes the biggest difference to support these boys, but also the way in which they view our perception of them. If we make them feel like we're not wanting them to be in that classroom, or they're not going to last very long in our lessons, then they are going to struggle to be able to regulate, and they're going to be able to struggle to be able to make the right choices within our lessons. We also believe that aspiration needs to be a really strong part of it, and low aspiration is an absolute myth in our boys. They really do want to aspire to be great, and to avoid that comfort-based approach, we don't want to wrap them in cotton wool. We want to challenge them, and we want to do it in a really supportive way where we base it on knowing that they can do whatever they want to do. This is some of the things that we have already achieved, and there's much more that we're going to be going into doing. But we've been able to establish through some connections with a TikToker, a literacy program that supports boys with their reading. We look at masculinity through literature texts like Ernest Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea. We've got a mental health month where we support boys to be able to discuss different issues. We have a lot of externals that come in and speak to our boys about lived experiences, and we found that the lived experiences are really significant. And we've created behaviour policy changes. So we've changed our on-call system to enable staff to be able to do a reintegration rather than a straight removal, to ensure, again, that the relationship between the staff and the students is sustained. Here are some of the images of some of the things that we've done just to prove that we are actually doing it. The gym trip that you can see on some of the pictures, this actually came from the boys. So after each of our discussion points, we always ask the boys for feedback and suggestions, and then we try to implement them within the program. So it's a really organic and natural program that specifically adapts to our boys. The bottom left talk in particular was a really powerful one. This was from Sean Flores, who was an ex-Vogue model, and he spoke really openly with our boys about his experiences of struggling with addiction, OCD, pornography, but also body dysmorphia and body image, and the way in which kind of his representation of himself was something he really struggled with. And that encouraged our boys to be very open within that space, where they were able to communicate and talk to each other and also share in front of their peers their own experiences of how they view themselves. And there are just a couple of things that I wanted to just very quickly touch upon that really are kind of bedrock beliefs for us. One of them is that it's really important that we engage meaningfully with the boys and we ensure that relationships are a really important strategy. And one of the things that we try to always talk about is that feeling of being held, that feeling that they're turning up to school and they know that there's a safety net of us around them that's going to support them and get them. Because for many of our boys, they don't have that. So showing engagement with extracurricular activities or talking to them about their weekend and seeing them as individuals is so important. So often within the media, boys are considered as one homogenous group. And that's really frustrating because they are a collection of individuals. And masculinity is not a binary concept. Masculinity has got many different facets to it. And if we start to approach it from a perspective of shoehorning what masculinity is and shoehorning these boys into a collective, we're really struggling to be able to create those meaningful relationships, because we believe that it's important to recognize the primacy of that relationship. And even when things are going wrong, sustaining that calm and controlled tone, making sure that we're thinking about measuring that risk for public embarrassment and taking them out of an environment if they're doing something wrong, to ensure that that relationship is always fostered and is always key. And we talk about the idea of the emotional bank account, that we have an investment in every single relationship we have. And sometimes it will go wrong and we have to withdraw from that bank account, but we need to reinvest in that as well. And one of the things that we talk quite often about with our staff and with our boys is the importance of that reinvestment, that apologizing if you have to make that withdrawal and explaining why that has to be done, but ensuring that you see that that is not something that you're going to hold on to. It's not a grudge. You're going to be able to build up to it, and making sure that as educators as well, we foster that emotional bank account through our commitment to that student and to making sure that they have got truth from us and they've got reliability from us. One of the main aspects that we really wanted to look at was valuing the voice of boys when we first started this project, because we felt that the boys felt like they weren't heard, and that was really important. Now, this is a piece of research from Jones and Myhill, and what they established was the student perceptions of how they feel that they're treated within their classroom. And you can see here that the boys felt that there is a disparity between the way in which the girls were treated and the boys were treated. And I'm sure that you have experienced similar kind of discussions with many boys where they feel that it's unfair the way that they're treated. Now, boys have obviously got a lower register, so their voice will carry more throughout a classroom. Not that I'm excusing that behavior, but there is a perception issue here. And even if it's not our truth, and even if it's not the reality, it's what the boys think. So we've got some work to do where we need to break down these perceptions versus the reality. And I'm not saying that it's completely removed from our environment. They're still there, but we definitely have seen a reduction in boys feeling like they're picked on. We had a piece of national research come into our school a number of months ago now, and they said that we were the only school they'd been to where the boys said that they felt the same way, they were treated the same way as the girls. And that was a real watershed moment for us, where we started to see that we were making a real change here. Now, Ulster has brought out some modern research, and I'm just going to very quickly talk through a couple of things from this. But it's all about the way in which we need to create spaces for the boys to talk about things. They need to be able to talk about their prospects for the future. They need to be able to talk about their community. They need to be able to engage with really problematic forms of masculinity. And as educators, we need to be able to provide them with spaces to be able to look at different forms of masculinity and be bold enough to allow those conversations to take place. If we weren't bold enough to allow Sean to come in, we wouldn't have had the same breakthroughs with many of our boys that we have done. And I think you've got to be able to trust that being able to engage in a safe environment is a positive thing. Boys also felt like they are drawn to educators who really understand them. and they want to connect their learning to the context around them as well. So if we as educators can see what boys go through and we understand what boys go through, we're able to really foster a really strong relationship, and we're able to make better inroads with them. And it's really important that they understand what masculinity is. We as a society don't understand what masculinity is because we're constantly trying to define what it means to be a man. But what we're not thinking about is it's not a specific binary concept. It's a multifaceted individual concept that we need to allow the boys to be able to explore, because the stuff that they're hearing outside of this is really confusing for them. And even the Andrew Tate-esque narrative is being imposed upon many of our boys, but we're not actually turning around and asking the boys whether they believe that Andrew Tate is a role model. From our experiences, the things that the boys have talked about is empathetic skills, creating role models. And they will look at and listen to radio interviews, and they'll listen to TikToks, and they will see people around them telling them what they believe, and nobody's actually asking them what they believe. And that's important, and that's something that we looked at as well. 73% of students between 12 and 17 report that they rarely or never talk to an educator in school about their emotional state. Now, with such significant mental health concerns, that's a really damaging statistic, and something that we're really trying to combat, and something that I would say, if you spoke to our boys, obviously I'm slightly biased, but there's definitely a much more open rhetoric there. And we've established a mentoring program that provides some of our boys with a really specific one-to-one mentoring program, alongside the counsellor. And I should caveat, and I should have said this earlier, all of the stuff that we've done has got no money. So we have not got a budget. We have not got a steady income. We are doing this with no money whatsoever. We're just doing it because we love it and we fight for it, and it's our absolute passion. And I think that should be really aspirational to anyone listening, to just think about and reflect upon the idea that you can make these massive changes. You can reduce this statistic of students feeling like they can't talk to us, and it's not financially dependent. It's dependent upon your willingness to fight for it. And I think we need to really combat that as a statistic. And remember that the student-educator relationship is so important. Having that good relationship makes a big difference. They can talk to their teachers about their feelings. It's a trust thing, and that's what teaching is, right? Teaching's a trust thing, and we need to be able to give them at all levels a sense that they feel that we trust them and they trust us. Easier said than done, but take my word for it, absolutely possible. We know that this is also a really damaging rhetoric, that they're hearing they've got to be strong mentally, emotionally, and physically. But we need to be able to break through that. We need to be able to create spaces for them where they can really challenge those unhelpful messages, because no boy wants to pigeonhole themselves into a stereotype. They just don't know how to navigate themselves out of it. It's a whistle-stop tour today, and I hope that there's some things that you've just been able to reflect upon, but our body of work goes beyond this presentation. We are continually striving to create gender equity within education, and our program is consistently evolving. What I would really recommend that you do is, if you're interested in hearing a bit more from us or seeing how our work's progressing, please do follow us on LinkedIn, because we put everything on there. And if you wanted to talk about any of this further, or you are interested in any of the stuff that we're doing and have any questions, please do feel free to contact us at any time. Thank you so much for your time today. It is the work of our hearts, so I really do hope that you can see that change can happen from one person stepping forwards and fighting for something that they believe in. Thank you so much.